My name's Richard Glosser. I'm president of Hilltop Digital. Happy to be here to host a conversation between a publisher and an advertiser. So a different perspective from what we've heard. And our theme is the new face of TV. And it's interesting to think about what that means with the way that TV and digital is getting paired, the way that cross-platform experiences are now becoming more and more common for marketers to think about, to target, the data that comes from that helps become the glue between TV and digital. I think these all represent some of the issues that we'll try to talk about as the new face of TV. Let me introduce Kim Choff from Land Rover USA and Julie Shumaker from Zynga. So, first of all, I really like the Land Rover Evoque, and I'm just happy to talk about that for the next half hour.
You're jealous of me because I drive one.
I know. But I do play Zynga poker, and
good.
And big fan of jump poker. Julie, why don't you give a few minutes on what you do at Zynga and why a games company is at a TV panel.
Great. So Zynga is a global publisher of social and mobile games, and we reach roughly 80 million users across the globe every day, and the number one behavior that they're doing is second screen. So the most important reason that we're here and we care about television is that both watching our own consumers' data, but also industry trends from the Nielsen's and the Comscores do indicate that that 79% of all mobile gamers are playing while they're watching television. We think that it's the second screen of choice, and it's really exciting to talk to a great marketer like Land Rover and make that case. My role at Zynga is to monetize our consumers through advertising. So we posted earnings last year of 153 million in ad revenue for a company that only kind of dabbles in this business. So it's an interesting start, and we're really encouraged.
Great. Kim?
So Kim Chaw, and I'm responsible for digital communications at Land Rover. Everything from creative to websites, paid media, social, and CRM. And so, I've been there about 3.5 years, and it's been great. And I'm here because I think we were one of the first advertisers with Alphonso. But for us, what's really important, Julie mentioned industry stats. For us, it's really important to follow what consumer behavior is. And, I believe it's Nielsen, 85% of people are on their tablet or smartphone while they're watching TV. So it's really important to take advantage of that behavior to complement our TV buy, but also find those people online or on their mobile devices as they're using them.
And that's sort of the great kind of main lane here that we're thinking about. So how do you do that? How are you thinking about reaching those consumers? They've watched a commercial. Are you looking to extend while they're watching? Is it about targeting them afterwards? Do you need to know who they are, that they're in market before you target them? How are you thinking about it?
All of those things. What's really important for us is we're really highly considered product. So first, we have to know that you're the right demographic, you can actually afford to buy our vehicle, and then are you in market to buy that vehicle at that time. As we think about TV and mobile, it's the combination of full episode players to extend the reach of TV, or to complement that message while you're on your device watching TV, or after you watch TV. How can we, if we think that you've seen our commercial or maybe you haven't, how do we then find you online to sequentially message you or to reinforce that message again with you? And then layering on data with that from demographic, in-market data, audience, any type of audience targeting, lifestyle, social affinity, et cetera. And so we're always looking for that right combination that produces the most impact.
I have a lot of questions I want to understand on how much do you really know when you're extending that buy? Are you matching against your data set? Are you Do you know that they're in market? How are you determining that they're in market?
So a couple of different ways. We actually work really closely with Datalogics, who has access to Polk data, which is registration data of the entire DMV database. And we also look at our own first-party data, matching our owners, and we have a model that says when they're coming back to market, when their lease is up, et cetera. And so we're trying to find people and target those people online when we think they're in market for a new vehicle. And then there's other data sources like Blue Kai, for example, that help determine if you're in market. And then there's also kind of patterns of behavior that people tend to do when they're shopping for a new vehicle, the websites that they visit, the articles they read, et cetera, or the places that they visit. And so it's a combination of all those things that help us determine who's in market for a vehicle.
And how many pieces of data might you have then about that person at that point?
A lot. It depends. I mean, it depends. I think one of the important parts that, from the last panel, they were talking about viewability, but what's important for us is audience verification as well. So with all of that data, are our publishers actually reaching the people they tell us they're reaching? And is that data layer actually working? Because sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So, yeah.
Let me go to Julie, because my understanding, having worked a little bit and understanding how the games publishers work, is you guys have more data, not just on the advertising experience, but really the game experience and the way that a game publisher uses data to determine each level of the game and when the moments are and whether the game's effective, and both from an acquisition and a loyalty point of view. So you're awash in data, and give us a little insight in how Zynga looks at data.
Well, certainly, if anybody caught the press 2 weeks ago with our founder coming back as CEO, I think his quote was probably captured it the best, which is, Zynga does pride. We've certainly made some mistakes along the way, but the one piece that has really a prideful component of our DNA is the use of data to iterate, to learn, to innovate, right? I mean, so we really think of innovation as a data-centric, which is phenomenally different than the games industry in general, that think of themselves more like movie producers, and so from that, we sit on the first-party data from all the platforms we live on. So we get the Facebook data, the iOS and Google data through the platforms in which consumers install our apps. And then we, from there, go to the personalized data of, users are very eager to share information because they want things. And when you have a robust economy like a game economy, it's easy to get first-party data directly from the consumer. And then we, the part that we haven't yet fully exploited and we're excited about some early tests is the piece of our data set that's the most robust, and that is the second-by-second decision-making of the game engine based on the actual in-game behavior. So for instance, player A is playing an endless runner, and we know that he is 86% likely to quit the game if he loses 2 times. So, can we give him a power up at that moment? Can we do something to keep him in that game loop for 3, 4, 5 minutes longer? And then how can we leverage that actually for the brands that are participating in the platform to reach him at a high moment and see what we can do with that. So data is definitely the most important thing. I've always been on the revenue side of publishing. To give you a really specific example of how important data is to the company, I report to the chief data officer. And I don't know many media salespeople who report to the chief data officer. So we're pretty serious about this business at Zynga, and we need to learn from Kim's point about making sure that the attribution is happening and it is the right player and the person you're looking for. By the way, Zynga has the #1 household income in the mobile gaming space, just saying.
I told her earlier I was going to ask her for why I should care about Zynga. But I think just to that point, what we're looking for as advertisers is, or what I'm looking for also is, how can a publisher or a company that I'm working with help me understand what that consumer behavior is and what's that right moment to message them. And so it's not just about kind of impressions and frequency or reach anymore, but it's like that right moment in time that they'll be receptive to what I'm doing. And it also aligns with that consumer behavior. For example, at that high moment, like what's the point? You don't want to interrupt them when they're,
right.
In the middle of Words with Friends or whatever it is, like at a key moment. Like you want to do it at a time that they're actually going to be open to hearing what you have to say.
When they win the big poker pot and have the money, then
That's when you
give
get
them the
them.
considered purchase. That makes sense. I want to ask Julie, we talked a little bit beforehand, and you were saying that your audience is like a TV audience, and I thought at surface, like, what are you talking about? And then we started talking about really that simultaneous use issue, and I'd love to just hear a little more about that.
Yeah, I mean, so we're really excited about helping the overall mobile games category lead in what we call kind of prime time of the 70s, right? So if you think about mobile gaming behavior, and we just commissioned a really awesome Nielsen study for the gaming industry, not necessarily just about Zynga, and what we captured were some pretty wonderful data points that kind of take you back to appointment-based entertainment, right? So behaviors like 50+% of all card and board gamers in mobile select the time of their day they're going to go play that round, that hand. And some would call it their coffee break of the afternoon. The other behavior that's interesting, that's kind of call it before the DVRs and the remote controls, is you cannot win a game if you look away from a game. You will lose. And unlike the multitasking that's happening in almost all other mediums, when we are that second screen, we are the first screen. And so we are, we're really excited. Like I said, the Nielsen study revealed that 79% of all mobile gamers are playing while they're watching television. That we have the same gen pop as prime time and broadcast, except we over-index, significantly in millennials and Hispanics, and so for the mobile game category in general, we are really well positioned with companies like Alphonso, because we are what's happening in the living room. And unlike while you're scrolling through a social feed or you're doing a utilitarian app on mobile, you're in it. Like, you're paying attention. You're taking that 7-minute break from your show to play your round or compete head-to-head with a friend.
So the idea that it's happening, the usage at 79% while they're watching TV, how are you able to benefit from that? Like, how are you able to, have you looked at, as you program games, you haven't really done second screen extensions of TV programming. You certainly have entertainment properties that you work with, but beyond, how do you take advantage of that living room position?
Well, we think we take advantage of it by being leaders on the device itself, right? So at this point, the mission is clear. We want to connect 1 billion people through games, and the mechanism that is winning right now is smartphones and tablets. And so by nature of that behavior, we're going to be the best at that, and not really worry about being on set-top boxes or game consoles or OTT. So we are, that's our main focus. The way we benefit financially is to find day part targeting to align with great technologies that can allow you to conquest against what's happening on the television or complement what's happening on the television. I mean, I think we're seeing better data on the complement side than we are on the conquesting side. And so by nature of that, we're already seeing an uptick this year certainly in our video revenue. And I think it's largely because of that behavior.
Kim, do you you complement, do you also conquest?
Yeah, we do.
What's the interplay of those? How effective is conquesting?
Actually, one of the first campaigns that we've run with in conquesting TV to mobile with, had double-digit increases in brand lift. I think it's really interesting because we're, people know our brands, but at the same time, we're relatively small in the category. And so how do we be smarter when we're advertising it and make more impact during that? And one of the ways because we can't spend all of our dollars on TV because we know our users are on their mobile devices all the time. So the smarter way to do that for us to conquest is on that mobile device while a Mercedes or an Audi or a BMW, for example, commercial is playing. And it's been effective for us to get people interested in our products. But of course, it depends on what medium you're doing it. That's one instance. I think that in other parts of digital, conquesting has varying results. But it's a big part of what we're doing because as we seek to grow our brands, we have a new product coming out, launching, and I think over 80% of our customers have to come from conquest as we seek to grow our business.
Are you extending both national ads as well as more of the local ads? And my sense is local is a little more farther down the funnel, at least in terms of identifying the dealer and this particular offer there.
Yeah, we're doing both. We actually work with, extend our TV creative and customize it in online video and have kind of, I guess, the end card or kind of the last 5% of the video customized to a specific market like Austin and the various offer that it is, and having the map on there with where you locate the retailer in Austin, for example. So we're taking advantage of technology and video that way to be able to extend that message.
One of the things that I love about Land Rover and the great history of the brand is you really have a passionate community of people who are Land Rover enthusiasts. And you guys have done a lot of stuff around content as well. How does that play into your mix? I know we were talking about the interactive experience with
the Vanishing Game.
Vanishing Game with the British author.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting as content and TV and mobile become more important. It's not just us advertising; it's us creating experiences for our consumers. And so the most recent example of that is actually probably the furthest we've gone into content creation is we commissioned William Boyd, a well-known British author who wrote the latest Bond novel, Solo, to write an adventure story for us. We believe that our brand is made up of the stories customers tell us about us. And so we wanted to commission the next great adventure story, and a Land Rover happens to be featured in it, and it's actually not even a Land Rover product that we sell in the US, it's a Defender, an old Defender. So not just, it's a short story, but then interactive storytelling behind it, so cinemagraphs and video and music and narration, and then different bits of content that we could distribute through video publishers or different mobile ad buys or in social. So really successful for us in terms of interaction with our content. People spend as much as up to 15 minutes with us reading these stories and sharing it, hundreds of thousands of times. So it's been, and we've seen increases in brand awareness. So I think that was kind of an experiment for us, but I think as we see more efforts proven in that, it'll become more important to really add value to that user experience and not just kind of say, look at Land Rover all the time. It can't just be selling anymore. It has to be that connection with the brand.
So becoming more of a media company.
Yes, it's hard to go that far because it takes a lot to do that. So I think it's the balance of how much do you create on your own and how much do you create with the partners that you work with.
I'm going to ask if there's any questions in a minute, so think of them. Julie, we have an opportunity. We have a marketer here on the couch. Give me like a tough question that you just don't understand how a brand thinks sometimes that you'd like Kim to explain.
Well, I think the one that we struggle with the most is that, and you set me up perfectly for it earlier by giving the great comparison of entertainment companies like television networks and Zynga, right? Which is really like we just produce shows. And those shows appeal to various audiences, and we target ads to the specific audience that the brand wants. And yet the number one thing we hear is, oh, I don't advertise in mobile games. So 53% of all time spent on smartphones is playing games. 53% of all time. Zynga is the 5th in time spent on ComScore in the US. And you heard the math, right? 153 million. We're the number one ad business in all of games. All of games. We're probably bigger than the next 5 competitors combined as an ad business. And we're only 153 million, and yet we're the 5th largest in time spent. So the question is...
I have a sense I know where you're going with this.
What is the marketer's hesitation to... the data, it's like data, and yet the data shows you have to be here. So why aren't you here?
I love it.
So I think there's actually, for speaking as a premium brand, what's important to us for mobile, and I think what's really hard for us we found that actually in mobile, in-app performs much better than mobile browser. And so we're already there, but at the same time, what's hard is that as a premium brand, you want a premium canvas to show your product. And I think that mobile publishers need to catch up with those premium canvases to offer that. So I think that's one reason. And I think the second reason is for us, it's really important to have that data layer on there to find that right customer, and not just the fact that you're number 5 in ComScore, but that you actually have our audience there. Mm-hmm. So I think that's it's like a combination. Yeah.
Her data. I mean, you want to.
Yeah, I mean, not our buyers, but like the people who would buy a Land Rover or a Jaguar, for example. Like that specific audience, and then the creative part of things, and then the measurement. I think one of the things we struggle with in mobile the most is I think we've figured out, or we're almost there, trying to figure out attribution for desktop and other things because of cookies and whatnot. But in mobile, it's still hard, and so how do you help us get there as well for measurement?
We're going to win big business.
Are you going to let her match against your device ID?
So we obviously privacy policies with the platforms we don't share externally. We do have many alliances where we can use anonymous match source to get to that data set, and we will definitely be able to do that. I mean, it is a really interesting comment in the sense of, premier canvas. The category itself is 100% professionally developed content, right? Just like television, except we have more viewing time than even television programming on mobile. So I think we always feel, and I think you're right. The context does matter. And so you have elegant context in games, just like you have elegant context in some television shows, and then you have the other half. So we look forward to demonstrating that.
Okay, Kim, turnabout is fair play. What is it that you just don't get from publishers that they should be providing to you? What don't you understand?
I guess it's a couple of things. I want the publisher to actually know where their swim lane is, because even if you are number 5 in mobile, like you can't be all things to us. You can't reach, awareness in market and whatever. So what is the best place that you should be? Mm-hmm. And then second, like that consumer data and understanding who your consumer is and how it relates to how we want to interact is really important. And I think that there's not enough done about understanding that consumer behavior. It's not just cookies and impressions and things like that. It's, especially nowadays, as I think there's an article the other day that said, millennials ignore banners and things like that, but they really like content. So one of the things we've been trying to do is how do you add value to that experience? What's the utility that you're offering? And why do consumers want to remember your brand or interact with you and say, I want to be part of that? And so how do you take that, if people are really engaged, then how do you transfer that engagement to the advertiser that you're working with?
Okay. Yeah, we generally just like to hand a report. Like, here's what we delivered, right?
Exactly. Because like, I don't want to, like, click-through rate doesn't really matter to me. Like, impressions, like, that's part of your job. Like, that's what I'm paying for. Like, I expect you to deliver that. Like, what's beyond that you can offer as insight and show that it's working.
Let's go back to our 4Info Nielsen Catalina deal, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Get to the real data.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've had a Dr. Phil moment there. I'm going to ask the two of them to kind of hug this out. But, meanwhile, if there's any questions that anyone wants to ask. So, Brett?
Sure. So Zynga behaves like an entertainment. My thought about that is, can't you, because I've been in that space as well, and I want to tell people where the big budgets lie are in points. You know, I know they're on the digital side, but when I come to a brand and say something, or an agency, I'm like, I can deliver, 50 points a week in a market, because you don't always know who's going to convert, right? You don't know, like toy manufacturers have a hard time. It's the mom that saw it, the grandma saw it, the kid saw it, how do we get there? We need to build brand, we got to get all this. So is there a way that you can represent points, like GRPs, and then use your underlying data and say, so here's the primary, I got you all of that, and I got you these qualified people that are deeper in your funnel. Do you have the data to do that? I mean, that seems like something Alphonso should help you with, and that's compelling.
Right. We certainly.
Like to use a brand?
I kind of disagree with that.
That's fine.
Because actually, somebody else asked me this question not that long ago, comparing online video to points, and I'm like, it's not the same thing. Why are we using, like, points don't tell us
Sure.
really,
I'm not trying to say
yeah.
What I'm trying to say is,
What is the equivalent,
you
yeah.
can buy mass,
Yeah.
and then you can buy filter underneath
Yes.
if they have the data. But
Yeah.
since you don't know, you can't always buy people deep in the filter. You'll go broke.
Right.
Everybody that's ever tried to buy people deep in the filter, go broke, because you pay such a premium and you never get to the broad stroke. So it seems like you have an amazing platform to do both for them.
It's an interesting point. So about 7 years ago,
When you were in high school.
when I was at Electronic Arts, we did an initiative with Xbox. Our 1 week gone CEO at Zynga was then running Xbox, Don Matrick, and he was a really big fan of, like, we own the household, Xbox Live is the living room. And so we commissioned Nielsen to start doing GRPs for the games industry. And to tackle this very same issue, right? There's a perception problem that's not tied to behavior, right? Consumers don't have a perception problem. They're realizing I'm just a normal Joe and I play games. And all you have to do is look on the subway and you see that every normal Joe plays mobile games. So we did tackle it from a console perspective. I would say it moved the needle very, very slightly. I think mobile gaming is so much more mass market that it's probably something we should revisit as a category, and it's a good tip. I like it because I kind of, because we had a not great experience our first time around, it feels like this is a different opportunity.
We are out of time. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Julie. Thanks for the questions. We'll meet at the bar.